Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see how AgilePoint applications can provide intelligent process routing using Amazon machine learning. At AgilePoint, AI and natural processing have been at the forefront of our product development in last few years, and AgilePoint NX platform as such was always something which had the tenants needed to create an AI-driven app due to its model-driven as well as no-code generation framework. Things like skipping process instances or rolling them back based on certain key decision factors governing the state of that instance were always strong points for the product, but with machine learning and natural language processing, we are trying to take it few notches up. AgilePoint NX now has a new Agile extender which facilitates AI-driven process routing using Amazon machine learning, and it is just the beginning of many new things to come on this topic. For those of you who are not familiar with Amazon machine learning, it is a robust cloud-based service that makes it easy for developers of all skill levels to use machine learning technology. Amazon machine learning provides visualization tools and wizards that guide you through the process of creating machine learning models without having to learn complex machine learning algorithms and technology. So even a citizen developer should be able to create a machine learning model without being a data scientist. And that's what we are going to see in this video. So I'm going to start with my Amazon environment. So the first thing we usually do is you go to S3 storage. Now at this point of time, Amazon machine learning supports S3 as well as Redshift as the data storage mechanism. I'm going to use Amazon S3 for today. So I have a bucket over here called AgilePoint.ml. And I'm going to upload a new file over here. I'm going to rename it since I already uploaded it. I'm going to call it. So what this file contains is college enrollment data that based on historical data that people with what kind of grades and family income and regions and previous colleges have been selected in a course, and intelligently it will predict that whether this candidate is eligible for being admitted into the new course or not. So I'm going to actually use this, and just in case you are curious how this thing looks like, I'm going to open it in Excel. It's a CSV file. So it has first name, last name, city, date of birth, country, course, college, academic year, student ID, what grades they have got in 10th and 12th class, father's name, mother's name, their profession, their family income. So the three main factors I'm going to use is the grades in 10th and 12th and the family income. So there are other secondary factors as well. So I'm going to select this sheet. I'm going to say next, next. So I'm uploading and setting up properties for it in Amazon S3, so I have access to it. So the new file dataset is available over here. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to services, and I can search for machine learning over here. I recently used it, so I'm going to use it from recent menu. And at this point of time, I can click on create new. Now I have an option of creating data source and machine learning models separately. I'm going to create all of them in one single go. I'm going to say that my file resides on S3 and the bucket is this one. And remember the sheet was called data3. So I'm going to use that. And I'm going to just call it Amazon ML demo. So it verifies my permission and it generates the schema out of my Excel sheet. So as you can see, it says here is my data source name, here is the location. And remember, you should not be deleting this file because the data source is just a virtual pointer to this file. So if you delete the underlying file, the machine learning model won't work. It is of type CSV. It's auto-generated. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue. Next, it shows me here are the various data points within my CSV file. Now it asks me a question, does the first column contain the name of, first row contains the name of each column? I'm going to say yes. And as you can see now, it instead of var1, var2, it intelligently tells me what are the names of the columns, and here are the sample values. Now, Amazon as such, machine learning supports four kind of fields: binary, categorical, numeric, and text. Anything which is marked as text is not considered as part of machine learning algorithm and it would be ignored by Amazon. Other three are considered. So first name is something which will change from person to person, so I don't want that to be a decision factor. State, I want it. City, I want it to be a decision factor. Date of birth, now. Country, course, college, so I'm going to leave it as categorical. Year is text, academic year is text. I don't want even student ID to decide anything in my machine learning model. Now grade in 10th class, it is categorical, so it will be one of these, from one of these categories. So it categorical means it is from a selected set of values. So I'm going to leave it as categorical. Father name, I'm going to mark it as text. Mother name also text. So I'm basically telling Amazon, ignore these while generating the machine learning model. Now single parent, it's a binary field, whether it is going to be either yes or no. So that's why it has marked it as binary. One of two outcomes would be there. Profession, family address, again I want to ignore it. Salary is numeric, that's the fourth field kind, so anything which has numbers. And mother's profession, I want to ignore that one as well. And even this one, we can probably just say that let's not take that into consideration. On the next screen, it shows me the fields which I have selected and which qualify for being included into my machine learning model. So here are the various fields and which one of these am I trying to predict? So I'm going to say I'm trying to predict the eligibility of this person. It next asks me, does your data contain an identifier? If I do have an identifier in form of student ID, which is going to be unique, but I'm going to just say no and click review. So at this time, it tells me a summary of things that it found 10 text attributes which would be ignored, 7 categorical, 2 binary, and 1 numeric. And I'm going to go ahead and click continue. It then asks me a question. It automatically picks that, okay, it is going to use binary classification model for my machine learning algorithm. There are 3 different models. Binary is used if the field which I'm evaluating is of type binary, that's what it is used. Then there is regression. If the field selected for the evaluation was numeric, it would have selected regression. And if I selected a field which was categorical, then it would have been multi-class. Since I selected eligibility as yes or no, that's why it is showing me as binary. Next, it gives a name to my model. I can change it, but that's what I'm going to go with. Next, it asks me to select how I want to use the data of my model and split it across training and evaluation. So I'm going to say use 70% of the data to train my model and 30% for evaluating my model. And here is the evaluation name. So it says the data source generation is complete and I'm going to click on create machine learning model. So this puts it in pending status. Amazon takes around 2 to 3 minutes for this to complete. Sometimes it might take more. My data set was smaller, so 2 to 3 minutes is usually enough for it. But again, you can have more as well. Now, in interest of time, I'm going to actually open up one of the existing models which is already live now. So I'm going to it used the same data. So here is my college enrollment. And I'm going to open the machine learning model over here. Now, one thing I have to do is before I start using it, there is a button over here called enable endpoint. I clicked on it and so that I can call it from external system. That's all what I did. Now let's go ahead and look at few things which happened over here. So if I drill down into evaluation, it gives me a summary. It tells me that based on the training data, the output is very good. Anything which is above good is good enough. So it has area under the curve as 0.82. I can play around with this number a little bit. So if I want to have more focus on true positives, I can move it over here. I'll just leave it at the middle. So the page explains what this is doing. So I can fine tune my model a little bit. Next, I'm going to test my model. Here is the sample data. Now I can go and fill in the values over here or just paste a record. So I'm going to paste a record. I'm going to say if this student comes in, look at the grade, it is A and B and the family income is $300,000. Create a prediction. So it tells me the predicted label. This is a eligible candidate and the probability of this is pretty high, 99.98%. But if I change the grade over here to C, it says it is a eligible candidate, but his probability is only 0.71. So 71% of him being selected. So I can create workflow logic around this. But if I just say both of them as C, it says no, this is not an eligible candidate. He got lower grades in both 10th and 12th. So I can now start using this. Now before I get into my demo, I have set up a list of students on SharePoint. I just created 3 of them just to show the concept over here, and this could have been any other system as well. So it is just my student database. So there is a student called John Smith who has A and B grade in 10th and 12th and a family income is decent enough. Then there is Richard Smith who has D in both, so he will be the one who would not be selected. And then there is somebody over here, say Shane Vaughn, who is having C grade in 10th and B in 12th, so he's a borderline candidate. So I'm going to run these 3 scenarios. Now before I do that, I'm going to get into Agile Point. And I have a workflow over here or an application over here called college enrollment. So I'm going to show you that. Now the workflow logic says is somebody is going to open the student enrollment form, select the student, submit the form, and if he is a truly eligible candidate, what I want that means his eligibility score is more than 97%. I want to directly go to Dean approval without wasting time over here. If it is in the gray area 70% to 97%, go for HOD approval. If HOD rejects it, just go ahead and mark it as and move it to rejected candidates list in SharePoint over here, as you can see. Or if HOD approves it, it goes for Dean approval as well, because candidate is an average student. And if it is less than 70%, it says ineligible, straight away jump to the stop. So, no, but if you see my logic, it is more of sequential over here, right? Now what I did over here is I went to machine learning. I dragged and dropped my Amazon machine learning extender on this process. Now remember, the extender kind of shapes, they do not connect to anything in the workflow. They are more like governing shapes sitting on top. So I just dragged and dropped one over here and I defined my rules. Now this is where I'm calling in machine learning. So I defined 2 rules. I said connect to Amazon machine learning. The model over there is college enrollment. Trigger this when the student enrollment activity, which is my first form, is complete. Then I set up the parameter. I said pass in the form values into Amazon machine learning's model. So as you can see, it dynamically figured out what was the schema on the machine learning side. And whatever is sent back in the response, the predicted label and score. So store the label in eligibility and score in the eligibility score. And on additional actions, I said change the flow when you meet this certain criteria. And for criteria, I said where eligibility equal to 1 and the score is more than 98%, directly skip to Dean approval. So don't waste time getting HOD approval. He is a good candidate. We want him in our class. So skip. And the same thing I did over here on the second one, where I said if eligibility is equal to 0, that means he's already a rejected candidate. Don't waste Dean and HOD's time on this. Directly go to the reject notification. So don't follow the regular process flow. You can skip around if these conditions are matched. If it is a regular thing, it falls between 70 and 98%, then follow the regular flow. So that's what I have over here. So I'm going to switch to my screen over here. I'm going to say open the form. So this is my student enrollment form. Now somebody from academic section might be filling it, and I'm filling in the value for the candidate called John Smith. This is an eligible candidate in my case, and it should directly skip to Dean approval. As you can see the grades over here, A and B, so good grades. And in the family history, it tells me that combined family income is $300,000. And I'm going to go ahead and click submit. Now at this point of time, if I navigate back to my inbox, go to processes I started, I have the college enrollment process running. If I go and do a view process, you would see over here, if I pin it at the top, you see that after student enrollment, it skipped rest of the intermediate steps and directly went to Dean approval. That was because of what result came back from my prediction in machine learning, which said this is a high caliber student, directly go for Dean approval. Now similarly, I'm going to kick off another one. I'm going to say this is Richard Smith. So he has got D in both grades and family income is okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit. Now this one should be rejected. So if you, because I straight away rejected it, so I'm going to actually open it. And I go over here, say processes. I'm going to select college enrollment AWS, all instances. So as you can see, the top one got completed already. It was fast. So it actually skipped and went to the notification area over here. And if I go to my rejected candidates list, that workflow will be has moved the Richard Smith account into the rejected candidate list. And similarly, if I submit it as a regular student, the machine learning will say just follow the regular path. So if I come over here, Shane Warne, and click submit. Now if I go back to my inbox, this is a candidate who is eligible but is a average student. You can see it as following the regular path over here. So it went for the regular HOD approval path. Thanks a lot for your time.